Firearms. Some people love them and some people hate them. And if you're like me, you use them every day for work. My name is Dustin Bryant, and over the next several minutes, we're going to be going over a few things that will hopefully make you more comfortable around firearms, or at least let you walk away watching this video with a little bit more knowledge, and hopefully you'll understand how they work and how to be safe around them, if you ever are. So the first thing we're going to go over is weapons safety. Then after that, we're going to ease into weapons nomenclature, which is basically the pieces of the firearm, and we're going to talk about a little bit how they work. And then lastly, we're going to wrap it up with how to clean them and how to maintain them so that they function properly when they're ready to go to work. So that being said, let's jump right into a safety check. So if you see here, we have the safety switch, which is on safe, which is what we want. And then over here we have the chamber, which is free of any kind of rounds or any debris for that matter, which is also what we want. So with that being said, probably the golden rule with firearms is treating all weapons as if they're loaded. If you do that, then the likelihood of anything happening to you, as long as the weapon's in your hands, is going to go down drastically. So I recommend to you, whenever you're around a firearm, whether it's at the store or you're at a friend's house or anything like that, if you see a weapon, just immediately think it's loaded. If you do that, then you're going to handle it properly. You're going to be more careful around it. You probably won't even touch it, which honestly would save you a lot of hassle from even getting yourself into any kind of trouble for that matter. So as long as you do that, then you'll be good to go. After that, you're going to keep your finger off the trigger until you're ready to shoot. That's also very important, because if you happen to be walking around your house or what have you at the firing range or out hunting with your buddies, and you've got your finger sitting right inside the trigger well there, resting right on top of it, then you're setting yourself up for failure and anybody else that's around you, because that's how mistakes happen. And according to the let's see, it was the Gun Violence Archive website, they said that so far in 2015 there's been 1,300 accidental shootings, which could range from people at the range, people at their house, or people out hunting at their ranches or whatever else. Basically negligent discharges or accidental discharges, things of that nature, or people just being careless, which is unfortunate, but it happens. And that's about almost 60 people a month that are having to deal with that kind of thing. After that, we're going to talk about don't point your weapon at anything you don't intend to shoot, which honestly, this is probably one of the biggest reasons that accidents happen, is because people flag each other, which is another phrase for basically sweeping your muzzle across people, things like that. And my dad was actually in Bagram, Afghanistan, one deployment, and he was telling me that there was a couple of, unfortunately, they were security forces, and they were sitting at a entry control point, and they were doing their job, and one of the buddies went to his friend and placed the muzzle of his rifle on top of his buddy's knee and said, "Do you trust me?" I'm not sure what the buddy said, but either way, the kid pulled the trigger, and there was a round chambered, and it was on fire. And basically, the round traveled through that kid's leg, bounced around a few times, and then finally exited. And the only reason that kid lived was because there was a medic that was actually nearby and processing the base. So, if that doesn't give you an eye-opener, I don't know what would. Also, you want to know what's behind your target before you shoot also. Whether you're at the range or you're at the ranch with your buddies again, doing your thing out in the woods, whatever else. If it's a paper target, most of the time there's a big backdrop if you're at a legit range or anything like that, but you really never know. There could be someone out there walking behind it, trying to change something, put something up, take something down, and accidents can happen. It can happen in a split second. You can put your head down and load up your ammo real quick, and then come back up, you're ready to fire, and then, oh, lo and behold, someone's walked behind your target, and now you've shot somebody because you didn't positively identify what was beyond your target. So that's an accident that really doesn't need to happen at all. And then lastly, you don't want to rely on your safety switch, because like all kinds of machines, they'll malfunction. One way or another, they're going to malfunction. I've never heard of anybody's safety switch not working, but I'm never going to take it for granted. So basically what that means is, if it's on there, hopefully it's not going to fire. It shouldn't fire, but you really never know. You could drop it one day and the safety switch might be unsafe, but the inner workings are saying that it's on fire. So, which goes back to one of the other golden rules: don't put your finger on the trigger until you're ready to shoot. So that's what we have. It's a checks and balances kind of thing, which works out great if you do it properly. So after that, we're going to go ahead and get into the weapons parts. Right here we have our muzzle, we have our barrel, we have our hand guards, which basically keeps your hands burned free from the heat of the barrel and all that taking place as you're firing your weapon. After that, we have a couple of sights up here. Normally you would see an iron sight, something like that up here, which is basically where you fix your eyes onto, and that's where your bullets hopefully go. After that, we have our upper receiver, which is going to house our charging handle, our forward assist button right here. We have the chamber area and the bolt carrier group, which is mainly responsible for the cycle of operations of the rounds as they're being ejected, feeding, chambering, locking, extracting, and firing, and all that stuff. After that, we have our lower receiver, which is going to take part in our magazine well, which is the magazines where they go and they hold the rounds. We have the bolt carrier release. On the opposite side, we have magazine release, which releases the magazines. We have our trigger well, and we also have our trigger. And then lastly, and most importantly, we have our safety switch, where we have safe, fire, and semi, which would be a 3-round burst per trigger squeeze. It is not an automatic weapon, so if it's on fire, you pull the trigger, it's going to fire one time until you release it and depress it again. And then at the end, we have our buttstock. I'm sorry, forgot the pistol grip at the end, which is basically where your hand rests. And the buttstock will sit right there in the shoulder / pec area, depending on how you go, and stabilize the weapon for firing. So after that, we're going to talk about some weapons care and how to maintain it so that it functions properly when you're ready to go to the range or hunting, what have you. What you're going to start doing is make sure you have proper lubrication. In the military, we use what we call COP, which is basically a baby oil type of substance, which lubricates the insides and the inner workings of the bolt carrier group and things like that, so that when it comes time for the bolt carrier group to move throughout the upper receiver, it can move freely. Because if it was dry as a bone, it probably wouldn't release as well or come back as well either, which is going to cause stoppages in your firearm, and that's not good. Because if you don't realize there's a stoppage and you keep trying to pull the trigger, then it's really going to be a bad day for you. What you're going to look for also on the insides is any kind of cracks, any kind of big indentations, scrapes, or burrs, anything like that, that the round, as far as the barrel goes, the round could get caught up on, or it could actually scrape up the round real bad as it exits. Not entirely sure what that would do, if they would really mess it up that bad, but either way, any kind of burr in your barrel is bad news, and you need to get that fixed immediately by someone who's professional. Also, you're going to want to check for any kind of burrs or cracks or anything like that in your bolt carrier group, because if that falls apart inside of here, then that's going to be a bad day as far as trying to even get that out of there. So I want to check on that. And then in the buttstock area, which I won't get all the way into it, but you have your buffer spring, which is responsible for sending the bolt back forward and all that stuff. It basically helps absorb the shock of the rifle as it's firing, so there's not a whole lot of kick. Otherwise, it'd hurt really bad. So, with that being said, your trigger, you want to make sure it has good spring retention. Your magazine release, the same thing. Forward assist is good to go. And also with taking care of your firearm is make sure it's in a secure place. Everyone's different. We're not going to get into it as far as where they keep their firearms and things like that. But if you feel that certain people would not be responsible if they found your firearm, it's probably best to keep it in a safe place, locked and secured. In no way am I trying to convince anybody in this video that they should own firearms or anything like that. The purpose of this is to let people know that under the right care, a firearm can be very safe, and that you shouldn't basically be scared of them. As long as you are holding them and they're in your hands and you handle it the proper way, then no one's going to get hurt. Best case scenario, obviously. But with that being said, I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you got a little bit from this as far as even weapons safety or weapons care. By no means am I an expert, or does this video make you an expert after watching it. So please do not think that at all. Again, I'm Dustin Bryant, and I appreciate your time. Have a good night.